Welcome to Synchronicity. My guest this week is no one. This is a solo cast. For the person who asked me today when the next episode was coming out for a solo cast, it's Mondays, Sundays and Mondays. So I guess today is a Sunday and that's why you're asking. Yeah, I know a lot of shit's going on, guys. It's fucking weird times out there, horsing around and such. Shout out to Sean and Cass. Whoa, guys, just there's a lot. It's been nuts. Here's the theme for this episode. It's freedom and death. And the reason it's death is is anyone familiar with the 10 of Swords card in the tarot? It's this guy, he's been stabbed with 10 swords. He's laying on the ground. There's a red cloth draped over him. And there's a dark sky, but then there's a light sky emerging. It's like it's the card of transitions. And as we're here towards the end of 2019, going into 2020, we're dying. Is death. The old us has pretty much been just decaying and putrefying now, and it's time for our new bodies to emerge, our new minds, our new imaginations, our new world, right? And it's kind of the coolest thing, too, if you really think about it. But it's also fucking crazy. It's like any death, right? There's a whole process involved, right? Talk to Jill Shock, right? Death doula. I've had her on. You know, it's a whole set of emotions and feelings people go through, and this pertains to anything that's a death, whether it's a physical death of someone you love, whether it's a sense of identity or a version of you, whether it's a relationship, whether it's a job, whether it's just a friendship. There's so many things that can die, and our relationship to that really, determines how that process goes. So if we can make it kind of fun, what? Death can be fun? What the fuck are you talking about? If we can make it maybe not even fun, just good, okay, balanced, harmonious, then our experience of it will be pretty stable. Now, that doesn't mean shit isn't weird and turbulent. I mean, just the energy that's been going on, you can feel it just kind of coming to a head right here as we're approaching New Year's Eve. It's a total fucking shift. Major things are happening in 2020. Those readings I did last week, so many Capricorn placements, so many things related to fear, so many people who were kind of done with the shit that they had to work on personally in a lot of ways, and we're stepping into these bigger roles. A lot of us are aliens. A lot of us came from other places. When I mean a lot of us, all of us. We all kind of annex these brains. That's a Neville Goddard term. He says, you annex the brain. You come down here, right? And he says our true form is a fiery serpent. And he says that freaks people out. They don't like to hear they're fiery serpents. He says the face is human, the hands are humans, but don't ask me about the body. It's a fiery serpent, and it terrifies people. Not me. Fucking love that fiery serpent. Call it the Kundalini. Call it whatever you want. It's a good shit. Okay. Here's how this episode's going to go. I'm going to answer a few questions. No, I'm not. How dare I? I am going to answer questions, just not first. I'm going to talk about my buddy Ram Dass, and I'm just going to share a quick little story. I know everyone posted their stuff about him. He affected a lot of people's lives. I'm just going to say a quick little story. I've said it before. It's just one of my favorite stories. Learn the Hanuman. If you really love Ram Dass, here's your proof. You really love Ram Dass? You really love him? Learn the Hanuman Chalisa. No, but I do recommend at least listening to the Hanuman Chalisa. If you want a version to listen to, Nina Rao's, what is it? Is it Ocean of Samadhi? I think that's the version that I learned the Hanuman Chalisa on. That's my favorite one. Krishna Das has a great one. He has a few, but there's one. Shri Hanuman Chalisa is, I think, the best one that I like. It's a 40 stanza line. It's like a 40 line. It's a long ass chant, but it's amazing. And it opens your heart because Hanuman is Jesus, who's Osiris, who's the solar symbol. And, like the theme is Kali, Isis, and Jesus, or Maitreya. We can also use that Christ consciousness, Buddha mind. Heard, who was it? Jesse, I don't want to forget his last name, on Jessa's podcast. Jesse on Jessa's podcast. He was talking about Maitreya, and that's Christ consciousness, but it's that positive divine masculine working harmoniously with the divine feminine. It's pretty great. Anyway, I'm getting off track. Ram Dass. I was at the retreat in 2014. It was my second year. I just finished smoking a joint. I was going to the buffet. People were still in the kind of like seminar area. And it was Ram Dass getting wheeled by his primary caregiver, Dasima, who is just a saint of a person. And she was picking out food for him. She was offering him, like, do you want this? Do you want that? And she got to these rice and beans. And she was like, do you want rice and beans, Ram Dass? And he was like, no, I don't want them. And he was real grumpy and had a sourpuss on. And I was like, this is the best. No one gets to see this shit except Dasima, the people who are close to them, and me. And the reason is like, it's a nice reminder that Ram Dass was a person too, right? Everyone's a person here, even if they're fucking beaming love and light constantly. And I think if we forget that, we can be a little harsh on ourselves until we realize it's great to be human. And even those little kind of bursts of emotion or non-holiness and purity, that's actually being authentic and quite literally the purpose, right? And it's pretty fucking cool. So big love to Ram Dass, Neem Karoli Baba, all the people at Love Serve Remember. Lots of love to you all. You guys are the fucking best. All right, now we'll do some questions. Then we'll get to some tweets. Then we'll get to a technique. Should I just give you the fucking technique first? Why do I got to bury the fucking lead like I'm a news thing? Oh, I will say this. 2020 prices, after this episode comes out, 2020 prices for readings are going up. And they're going up not insignificantly in price. So if you're already mad at me for how expensive this is, you can see the comments on YouTube where someone accused me. What did he say? He was like, dude, you've been doing divinatory stuff for less than 2 months and you're already charging money. Way to be like the prodigal son who takes the money and runs. And it's just like, bruh, I just wrote back LOL, which is if you ever want to enrage someone, not that it was my intent, but someone who writes this, they think of the thing that makes them mad, then type the thing that makes them mad, and then push enter on they review it and they go, yeah, that's good. That's going to get them. Enter it. If you just write back LOL, it's like, oh, fuck. Didn't have to, it's just, you get it. Anyway, prices are going to go up. So if you want a reading at the prices that they are now, you can go to syncpodcast.com/readings. There'll be links. Book it now, and then the prices will be lower than they will and like a day after you hear this. If you get it quick, if you get the podcast quick. Otherwise, it went up. Sorry. Okay. You can also join the Patreon. I think there's maybe like 5 spots left at the annual level to get the free bonus reading, the 33-minute one. The Patreon I'll launch on the email list this coming week. I got a lot of shit going on. Who doesn't, right? It's fucking crazy. That's why I'm getting to the questions. Okay. Excuse me. I'm hiccuping. I've also been oscillating between eating incredibly healthy and incredibly not healthy. And I mean not healthy in the sense that the foods would not be traditionally thought of as healthy, like McDonald's. And I just had Chinese food. And boy, it was too much. It was too much today, guys. Okay. Question number 1. You mentioned previously you were anxious and focused on how to do things perfectly. How did you move out of that? All right. Yeah, I mean, it was just kind of I like to be, I don't even think it was detail oriented, but I like to kind of just I wanted things to be an exact representation of the purest, most authentic part of my soul. And the way I got out of that is number 1, realizing whatever I did was to my advantage. Whatever I was doing was the perfect expression, and not in a defeatist kind of passive way that, I just do a shitty job. I'm like, that's great. But just accepting that and then imagining a very high caliber of output and work that even if it wasn't max peak level objectively, couldn't have possibly been better, it was perfect in terms of what it needed to be. So I kind of became a perfectionist, but one who is not as attached to the outcome. Does that make sense? I know it's kind of weird, but really the key here is imagining. So yeah. Oh wait, I was supposed to give the technique. We'll go to the questions and then I'll fucking do the technique. All right, you can fast forward if this is annoying to you. Okay, in terms of healing the divine masculine and feminine within, any resources you'd recommend? I'm trans masculine and probably have work to do in both realms. Okay. This is a big question, right? Resource-wise, I don't know that I've really read or listened to anything specifically related to Jessa's podcast is great. I'll just keep mentioning her because it's a really good podcast and she's awesome. And she's a resource for me. I like to listen to her because she gives me perspectives, with her guests and by herself in terms of I can then think about it and play off of it. And if I agree or disagree or have different perspective, I find that helpful. I haven't really read any specific books. I mean, I can tell you that through the course of my studies and looking at the divine masculine and feminine, getting a lot of downloads throughout the years, just internally, that's where most of my information, wisdom, I don't know what to call it, about this stuff comes from. But I will say this about divine and masculine. It is not really a gender thing so much as it is kind of an energy thing, and understanding the qualities and energies associated with masculine and feminine is important, which is why I use that conscious, subconscious slash, you know, what's the word I'm looking for? You know, thinking mind versus intuitive heart, right? The thinking mind would be the conscious, the subconscious would be the intuitive heart. That connection and learning how to foster that bridge, if anyone who's gotten a Bridge of Destiny reading from me, that's what I talk about a lot, is creating that bridge between our conscious and subconscious minds. And that is a masculine and feminine energy thing going there. And as we kind of get clearer and get a better understanding of what that means, it gets easier to do that. And then that becomes like the signal that you're doing it right. You're like, oh, my shit must be balanced because like I'm reacting like a balanced person. So that's your proof. Okay. And then also not judging if like you act a little like off center, like not reacting to that like you're the fucking worst person in the world. Like, oh shit, I have so much work in you. And it's like, okay, well, if you want to, you know, letting in the idea that things can be easy if you want them to be. They're actually precisely as easy as you believe them to be. That's what's so mind-bending. Okay, a few episodes ago, you mentioned healing ancestors and blessing others. How does one go about doing this? Okay, the ancestor stuff is a little more, at least in my experience, you really want to have your shit together. I mean, same with blessing others, but I think you can move into blessing others before healing ancestors. And I think 2020 in general, right, we're going to have all this Capricorn energy. It's going to be a lot of ancestral healing in 2020. And I think it's going to naturally happen for most people who are open to it. So the first thing is you got to be open to this stuff and believe that you're actually doing it, or that it's possible, or that this is your role to do that. So that's number one. And if you're asking those questions, you're probably one of those people. Blessing others is pretty easy. When you get in a very positive, energetic state, let's say you just are on the train or you're on somewhere where a lot of people are around you at a party or something, just out in public walking, and you just you catch the wave. You're like, oh shit, I feel great. I'm fucking God. This is the best. You just kind of spiral that outward energetically, and you can even look at people. Don't be creepy about it, you weirdo, but just kind of like, you know, you can do a little finger flutter or your little thing in your mind and just bless people. Be like, you're going to have an amazing day. You're not going to know why. Something is going to happen and it's going to feel so fucking good. And just do that for as many people around. You can expand your energy outward and do that. That's how you bless people. But again, you want to start with yourself, because if you don't have the capacity to do this for yourself innately, you might kind of question this at various times. And if you're doing this type of work, like extending energy outwards, and you don't have kind of that faith or confidence or security in what you're doing, you can take on people's energy by accident. So you see this with a lot of healers, not even just in a metaphysical sense, but people who are like nurses or doctors or therapists. Like, they're very good at what they do, but they'll take on, you know, people's leaking energy, and it's like, oh shit. Then it's just burnout and all of these things. And it's like, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. All right, let's go to number 2. Then I'll get this technique. I really will. This is like the endless tease. Okay. I recently tried to apply the system, for lack of a better word, you discussed, and had some curious results. It's fair to say that I am an adherent. It's a tough. I am an adherent to the idea that consciousness precedes our material world. In fact, it's the substrate for reality. So it's not the concept that I have trouble with, but I'm thinking that perhaps I'm bringing some personal hangups to the table that are frustrating my attempts at imagining. All right, let me this is the first paragraph. There's 3 more. When you say that it's not the concept that I have trouble with, it's almost always the concept that you're having trouble with. Because if you really, really believe that consciousness precedes our material world, like for real, like you have to like fully believe, you can believe that like 99.9%, that's not 100%, then none of this would have any trouble for you, because you would just be like, okay, I accept this fully. Now the next thought I'm going to have is that anything related to consciousness is effortless for me. And that would be, you would be open enough and receptive enough to change it. And I'm not shaming anyone. I mean, like the purpose of kind of testing this and expanding our awareness of this, that's the whole fucking point. It's incredibly satisfying and fulfilling as we test our boundaries and kind of allow our minds to accept the full concept of consciousness preceding materiality. But if you say it's not the concept you have trouble with, just look at when you say that. If you're like, I am definitely not having trouble with this, just look at it. Okay. Without going into specifics, very shortly upon waking up, the morning after trying the technique, I've gotten strong indications, very solid information actually, that strongly suggests that I've imagined is not going to happen. This has happened twice. The timing and the clarity of the message is such that it's almost like I've imagined the very opposite thing happening than what I intended. I had to laugh the second time this happened, and the information was pretty damn definitive. Almost like a higher power was saying, nice try, bucko, but no dice. Doesn't completely rule out the possibility that what I've imagined may occur in some highly improbable, roundabout way that I can't even really fathom at the moment, but it makes it very unlikely. What do you think the issue is here? Am I somehow self-sabotaging, maybe my subconscious, or maybe being presented with an important lesson I'm not grasping? What do you think? I'm not dissuaded that the technique is effective, but I'm also a little flummoxed. Thanks. Alrighty. I've spoken about this before. Here's what happens when you imagine something big for yourself. You're going to test yourself on that shit. And even if you don't perceive it as a test, this is what happens when you imagine some new life for yourself, some new way of being, just some new thing, a big thing. Your life is going to crumble. Everything around you may start to go fucking haywire because guess what's happening? Remember that 10 of Swords I spoke about in the beginning? That's what's happening. And that's what's happening to everyone right now as we move into 2020. This is why this is a great question. Yeah, shit looks objectively like it's going wrong. Shit objectively looks like it's chaotic. But that is the portal in which we move through into which our new life emerges, or we jump onto the new timeline, or we move into a different dimension, however you want to put it, okay? Whatever the narrative choice you want to use, that's the portal. But if we react to it, then we are going to interfere and impede the process and delay it. We're not going to fucking end it unless we choose to. But we're going to delay the process pretty significantly. So what people react to, unfortunately, not unfortunately, it's the process for them learning, is when something comes out, you imagine something and the exact opposite happens, that's a test. You're going to react to it or not? If you react to it, you're going to delay it. All right. And so now I'm going to get into this technique just because it's a good point. There's one more question. I'll get to that afterwards. All right. So here's the technique. So I've given you the imaginal techniques. If you don't know what I'm talking about, go to imaginal techniques number 1. It started around mid-July. Go from there. There's the techniques. This one's different. It's a combo of something I learned in Tufti the Priestess from her and something I kind of extended out into it. And I've used it and holy shit. It's pretty nuts. If you're ready to kind of really pop out of your body and just see this world as a dream in like a very present way, this is the technique for you. Do not use this lightly. I don't want to make it seem like it's a big fucking deal, but it's just effective. And so just like be aware of what you're doing. Really embed those positive feelings into every state you're trying to do or experience or relationship or whatever, because this shit works. All right, here's the technique. So here's the concept. This world is a mirror. Okay, think about an actual mirror. You look at a mirror, you see your reflection. It's very easy to understand. It refracts light, right? And then your reflection is given back to you in the mirror. We have no trouble understanding it when we move out of the frame of the mirror. There's nothing there. It's reflecting back the other stuff. We're not in it, right? Super fucking easy. This world is also a mirror. And I've mentioned this a little bit, but I'm going to give you a very specific technique related to this. So there's no boundary to this mirror in this world, right? I mean, there is a boundary. It's us going to sleep. But just for all intents and purposes, what we visually see and perceive with our senses, there's no boundary, okay? So do I just think MK like Mr. Mackey? Oh, Jesus Christ. So I think I noticed I was doing that during readings too. I'm going to try to not do that. So basically, this mirror has no boundary either, but it also refracts something back to us. And what refracts back to us is our consciousness. So you can think of our consciousness as liquid light. It's this kind of malleable, flowy, golden light that we can make things with. And think of this world as crystallized liquid light. It's tangible. We have visual sensory detail. But this mirror of our consciousness that refracts back this crystal light or this liquid light that then crystallizes, there's also a time delay. And so this is exactly what was going on in the beginning. This prior question is, if we imagine something and then something happens in between that makes it look like this isn't going to happen, or our world is crumbling, or something else, or an aspect of ourselves is dying and it feels terrifying. If we react to that, we kind of interpose and interject ourselves into this mirror. It's like putting something in front of a mirror after you've moved away. And weirdly, since time is a construct and we sometimes experience it linearly, that can come before the original thing we imagine. And it has to do with the intensity of what's going on. And so it is related to your subconscious. It is related to your beliefs, but I have a very effective technique that kind of uses these principles, and it's fucking mind blowing. Okay, here's the technique. In your mind's eye, in your imagination, you are going to imagine yourself in front of a mirror. Okay. And in this, I just said okay again. In this mirror, you're going to give yourself any quality, thing that you want. You're just going to give it to yourself. Lovingly is what I recommend. Let's use the example of a relationship. Let's say you want someone who is unconditionally loving, attractive, funny, cool, just anything you want. Even a great cook. That's totally allowed. Give yourself those qualities in the mirror. Just give them to yourself. Just give. Anything you would want from another, give to yourself. States of consciousness is what I recommend. Fearlessness, balance, any skill or talent or belief that you would want, continue to give it to yourself in this mirror. So what eventually happens is you accept and embody these qualities. And as you do in this world, situations, experiences, people, all this stuff filters into your life. Your life basically reshuffles itself, and these things are delivered to you, basically to your doorstep, to validate that this is what's going on. It's pretty insane. It's actually one of the craziest things I've ever seen in terms of the time, like the Sabbath period Neville Goddard talks about. Is really reduced. It's kind of weird. And I have an explanation for why that is. So what's going on here is we have this base level reality. I've spoken about Noah's Ark before. Think of this level reality here as I've used it as, physical reality, understanding, then psychological, then spiritual. I'm going to use a different 3-layered concept for Noah's Ark. And this is the beauty. You can do this shit. It's amazing. This world is the physical. Our imaginal world is that middle arc. And the top world is this mirror world. And let me explain why that is. When we create an imaginal version of ourselves, that's a higher dimensional reality than this world. When we then create a mirror world version of ourselves from the imagined version, that's a higher dimensional reality than that one. For some reason, because there's 2 degrees of separation from our physical selves, it seems to be easier for us to accept these gifts, these qualities, these things that we're giving to ourselves in the mirror. I don't know why that is. It seems to be something related to the distance of who we think we are here. So it's easier for us to be like, sure, I'm in a mirror. I'll take it, whatever. So what's really fucking trippy about this is that version, right? As we accept the gifts in the mirror world, it cascades down to the imaginal version of us, which then cascades down to the physical version of us here where you're listening to this, and it just flows into our life. Sometimes, like I'll give an example with money. If I look at my bank account and there's only like $200, and then I say, I'm rich, I have $20,000 in my bank account. The feedback from my senses and likely to feed into my subconscious until I know how to control my mind and heart, it's going to be like, no, you're not, you fucking dingus. Look in front of your face. You're delusional. So that's like barrier number 1. Now, if we go into our imagination, which is significantly more effective, especially if we listen to this and understand it and experiment with it, it's still more effective, but when I open my eyes, if it doesn't happen or something funnels in that says it's the exact opposite and only some improbable way could it happen, that can flummox us, right? It can make us a little like, what's going on? However, when we give it to ourselves in the mirror world, it's just like, all right, whatever. This is not an issue. It's like not even close to a real version of me. I guess I'll just fucking take it because some guy told me to, or it sounds like a interesting thing to do. But we accept it nonetheless. And since it's a higher dimensional reality than this one by a magnitude of 2, it happens pretty quickly. So use that technique. It's the mirror technique. It's something I gave every single person in these readings because I had just discovered it. Wasn't hiding it, so I'm giving it now, but it's just fucking effective. Let's talk about this third question then. If you have any questions, noah@syncpodcast.com, by the way. That's where they are. Okay. Number 3 question. Those physical changes we can see in our bodies during ascension downloads? Do you deal with these changes that are visible only to us, or do you think that they're apparent to other people as well? Have a great night. They're apparent to other people. I mean, this is really your body. Your perception of your body is what other people see, right? So when you feel bad about your body, when you judge your body, it's not like people are going to just immediately pick up on it, but you are kind of putting that out in the world. As your body really begins to change and you click into who you are, you'll accept it, you'll stabilize it, and then, That's what other people say. They'll say things like, wow, you look really good. This happened to me the other day. I've never been an abundantly stylish person. Yesterday or 2 days ago, I was in the city and like multiple people, friends and other people were like, you look like a movie star. I'm like, what? I was like, what? This is the regular shit I wear. But like, then I caught a glance of myself in the mirror. I'm like, oh my God, I do look good. Fuck yeah. This is great. So yeah, other people can see it. Cool. And if people don't know what I'm talking about, as you kind of step into the best version of yourself, you kind of get your best body. There's no judgment on what that should look like. There's no like weight criteria or attractiveness. Well, it is attractiveness. You should be incredibly attractive no matter what you look like. But there's no like, it's just your best body. That's all. It's a good sign. All right. Tweets. Are we doing this? Oh boy, there's a lot. Okay, righteousness. Let's talk about righteousness. That's a word that has such a negative connotation right now when we talk about righteousness. Like, that guy's a righteous prick. But here's what righteousness is. It's just the consciousness of already being what you want to be. That's being righteous. That's not sinning. Sinning is just missing your mark. Nothing more than that. Not a value judgment. You just missed your mark, correct your aim, hit your target, bullseye, righteous. Boom. That's righteousness. Would you believe me if I told you the point of being alive is to love and have fun? If you do, then you get it. If not, keep working. Have you realized you can always trust yourself because you're amazing yet? Because that's the truth. When you get that who you really are, when this fucking shit clicks in for you, for real, and you get it, and you go, I am, oh my God, I get it. And you get it. And you realize you're fucking amazing and you're everything. And anything you believe great about anyone else or anything is actually you, or any God, that's you. You can trust yourself forever. So just let it go. Stop freaking out. You got this shit. Some of us have taken on being the sacrificial lamb so others can transmute their suffering through us. Okay. What I mean by that is, if you're familiar with the Buddhist practice of Tonglen, it's where you take in other people's suffering and you transmute it kind of through this black cloud. You take it into your heart and push it out this black cloud of like your mouth and your head. Think of taking on some people's suffering as sometimes you look like the bad guy. Sometimes you look like the person who's doing the wrong thing. Sometimes you look like someone who is just not doing what's right, but you know what's right. And that's called being the sacrificial lamb. You have to be real careful if you're in one of these positions that you're not just, justifying negative behavior, but sometimes that happens. And if you can be aware of that and still do it, good for you. That's some advanced level shit. All right. Don't forget, you love what you become, okay? That's pretty easy. You become your ideal by falling in love with it, and that's it. But what you condemn, you also become, and that's not great because we have a tendency to judge and condemn shit, and you usually don't want to become that stuff. So be real careful about that, okay? Have you realized you're immortal yet, right? We've descended from God's state into individuated states. We ascend back to that, which means there's an immortal, and this fiery serpent version of us, right? It's immortal. So it's all good. We came to the world of death to experience this because we're awesome, we're cool, and we're badass. We're like, yo, that ride seems crazy. Let's fucking do it. Let's fucking do it. And they're like, yo, wait, you're going to have to go through like death and see all these people die, and you're going to get attached to it, and you're not even going to remember your God. And we're like, yeah, we don't give a shit, man. I'm going to fucking do it because I'm fucking cool and I'll learn stuff. And they're like, all right, well, I'm not going to do it. And they fucking stay somewhere else. I don't know who they are. I don't know, some aspect of God that does not come here. But we're like, no, I'm fucking doing it. So you're immortal. That's cool. Persist in your assumptions and then rejoice as they unfold. That's it. Simple. Accept life is good and then watch what happens. If you assume life is good, guess what it is? If you assume life is bad, guess what it is? All right, we flicker in and out of this world. We don't perceive it very often, but this is what we're doing. Our consciousness is flickering in, flickering out. It's very quick. It feels like this stable kind of cohesive identity we have, but sometimes we interrupt it, psychedelics, meditation, all this other stuff. And what we're really doing is when you flicker in and out, you can flicker to these ascended states of consciousness, flicker back in, bring it down into this world, and you're going up and down the ladder of ascension. I'm going to talk about this in an episode because I realized even some of my like very tuned in, people who are into this shit and get it and are not weird about getting it and are presenting it in cool, easy ways. This ascension thing still trips them up, going up to unity consciousness and then coming back down, all the dimensional stuff, because we think like collectively we shift into 5D and 6D, but we can do it individually whenever we want. That's what's so cool. So I'll talk a little bit about the ladder of ascension another time. All right. You're always doing this shit, so you might as well enjoy it, right? You're literally always doing the imaginal technique. You're always doing the mirror technique. So these tools help us learn that, but just enjoy it. That's the whole fucking point. Again, if I've incarnated for one reason, it's to remind you that this shit is super fucking fun. That's the whole point. Okay. I promise you'll get that. Have you realized you're Hanuman yet? That's a fun one. Don't take anyone's word for anything, even if it's the truth, okay? You need to test it and prove it through your own direct experience, because when you do that, you'll reveal an unshakable foundation, and that's what you need, because if you don't show yourself that it's you, you're always going to be serving up some aspect of you that can be destroyed by anything theoretically. So you want to show yourself that it's you. So I love myself. I'm great. I talk about amazing shit that I've experienced directly, and people hear it and it's resonant with them, but you got to take the shit I say and test it, or you're selling yourself short. Same thing for everyone. Like every single person you hear something from, it's just an aspect of you. So you can be happy. If they've seemed like they've realized something, but you got to test this shit. Okay. I just said the MK again. What the fuck? It's a Mr. Mackey episode. Have you realized you're always loved and protected yet? Because when you do, shit gets a lot easier. For real. And the process here is that you'll learn your unconditional love quite literally. And as you learn that, you'll be able to share it. And that's the whole kind of game. That's the Ouroboros of unconditional love, right? It's this loop of, oh, I am this, I can share it. I am this, I can share it. And how do you share it? You just beam it out. It's not that hard. Just beam it the fuck out of your body. It's so easy. I already did that one. Silence. Oh, man. I have a friend. She's been getting me into these tuning forks. Man, they're cool. And just the silence has been turned up, which means you can tune into it. And silence sometimes is noisy. Do you know what I mean by that? It happens. I went to this cool event. Some friends were showing it was in Queens, and there was this train overhead, and we were doing these meditations. Literally, the train's going above the top, and we're doing this silence meditation, and this train comes. It was awesome. You could still hear the sound of the bowl, the singing bowl, right, still through the train. It was pretty amazing. Trains are cool, by the way. Okay, wow. I ran through those way faster than I thought I would. That's pretty amazing. Do I have anything else I wanted to talk about? I don't know. Happy New Year's, guys. I don't know. I won't have an episode up, so the next one will be a guest, and it'll be in the new year, and it's going to be fun. Lots of big changes, and things are coming. I am LA bound. It's going to be great. There's lots of fun stuff going on. Check and see what's going on. In-person readings are also taking place at the Healing House. That's a thing. Check it out. That's it. I think that's it. I think I fucking nailed it. Oh, no, Mercury. Got to talk about one thing. Mercury just moved into Capricorn too. This is the time. It's all happening. Shit is getting weird. Your fears are going to come up in 2020. Do not be afraid. The proper method for dealing with fears is to move towards them confidently, move through them, get the boons that are on the other side. There's going to be a lot of healing of the divine masculine this year, a lot of the unconscious divine masculine. So if you're someone who knows how to hold space, this is going to be for men and women, both. It's not a gender thing. And you've dealt with your shit. Just when people start freaking out around you, hold space for them, bless them, imagine the best versions of them, imagine them calm and getting it, because this is this purge. And Mercury is here now. That's Hermes. That's gives us the capacity to understand both conceptually and intellectually and felt what's going on. And there's a lot of stuff. It's going to be a lot of bloodline clearing, ancestral stuff. So just it's going to be fun. 2020 is going to be really fun. If you're listening to this podcast, you're probably going to have an amazing 2020, but it doesn't mean it's not going to be turbulent at times. And you just want to be chill and cool and click into your best reality and make it easy for yourself. Make it effortless, right? Play. That's the fucking word to tap into, especially for 2020, because it could be chaotic. Play. 2021, 2022, 2023, fucking amazing. Also, the Dolphins. Anyone see the Dolphins ruin the Patriots today? That was amazing. Patriots trying to get that first round bye. Nope, didn't happen. Fins up, baby. Fucking Brian Flores, I love you. I'll be at games next year. Things are good. That's it. just hunker down. It's all good, guys. Listen, know that I'm sending out so much good vibes and positive energy. I'm spinning it out at all times. You're going to be fine. It's all good. That's my catchphrase. That's the catchphrase for 2020. It's all good. For real. Everything is to your advantage. Okay. Whew. Hoo la la. I think we're done. That's it. I will see you in a few days with a guest. Until then, happy imagining.